and welcome to Future Commerce, the podcast about cutting edge and next generation commerce. I'm Philip, and today we are joined by Hampton Catlin, VP of Engineering. Hey, that's him. At Rent the Runway, based in New York City. Welcome, Hampton.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have had you. For people who don't know Rent the Runway, and I can't imagine who may not, but it as the name suggests, it's an interesting business with an interesting business model. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's funny. People either really know who we are or they have no idea. It goes very extreme.
Yeah.
So Rent the Runway started 10 years ago as a sort of event rental business for women who want to go to high formality events and, basically get the same advantages that the men's tuxedo rental companies were doing at the time, or still do. But it's always been much easier for guys because you have like 30 different styles, and then congratulations, they enough depth to open up your tuxedo rental company. But for women, it's much more demanding about what they have and how to look good and feel good. And really just, in the end, it's recognizing an asset utilization problem. So, you buy a dress, you can wear it once, and then it ends up in your closet and you can't wear it again, and then it sits there and nobody else gets to enjoy it again. So the business sort of started with that high formality event thing with one-off rentals, but we've transitioned more to a subscription model and found, I would say, a lot of positive market fit signals. That is, our customers can't get enough of it.
Right.
And basically that's you get 4 items at a time, and this is all levels of formality. So mostly our customers in our subscriptions are not using us for events. I mean, that might be part of something they might choose, but mostly it's workwear, weekend wear, normal stuff. We even have exercise clothes are pretty popular. So now we're kind of transitioning into this, like, why do you need to own clothes? And I would say we have found success at knowing that this is a real value add for people. It's been pretty exciting. The company's growing really fast. One of the reasons why people haven't heard of us is because we don't advertise. And we don't advertise because, with a physical business, you have to own stuff for new people to sign up. So, we're growing just as fast as we can with word of mouth, which is awesome.
Wow.
If we did a Super Bowl ad, it'd be a pretty big mistake.
There'd be other kind of challenges to solve. So you're in an engineering role.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are kinds of challenges to solve. Before we get to those and how Rent the Runway is trying to solve problems at scale, tell us a little bit about you and your background. You have a pretty interesting and storied background. I hear you have a podcast too. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
I do have a podcast called We Have a Microphone, but it is not professional at all. It is not approved by Rent the Runway, nor is it.
Yeah, that's not PR approved.
Yeah, that's not PR approved. But it is funny. So my background, I spent a long time in different open source companies and roles. I was at the Wikimedia Foundation running their mobile things for quite a while. I've created the SAS CSS language and also Haml computer language. So both of those are pretty big open source communities at this point that are continued long. I'm no longer actively involved in either. Natalie Weisenbaum, who is my partner in designing SAS, has gone on. She continues to grow it into everything that it is now. But and really my career, even besides sort of doing these other things, really more the management, technology strategy, building the cultures, making sure we're working on the right stuff. Because I think as an engineer, I love building things. That was always making a difference, something that I could tangibly see I guess not hold, because it's digital, but something I could be proud of and show to people. And I think the difference between leadership and people who just want to continue programming is, can you get satisfaction from the fact that you helped somebody else do it, or do you need to do it yourself? It's like if you're a painter, do you want to make the paintings yourself, or does it just matter the beautiful things are created? And so for me, I think it's very much just about beautiful things getting created. And that's why I'm definitely much more spending my actual career doing tech management stuff.
It's interesting when I hear sort of the background of someone like you in this space. I'm reminded of an interview we did recently with Jeremy King, who spent 8 years at eBay, which is a company that has a storied history of investing and utilizing open source. Walmart Labs, where he brought that culture to utilize and contribute back to open source. You have an open source background. I'm starting to sense a little bit of a recurring theme in the world of digital retail or maybe direct-to-consumer, technology-assisted startups. Do you think that open source plays a pivotal role in the way that companies like Rent the Runway adopt technology, and what is that role for you in the way that you lead your engineering teams?
Yes, to the first question. I guess from my perspective, and maybe it's just as an engineer, I don't understand not using open source. That doesn't compute with me why you would choose something that you don't control. So anytime that, I can get into the buy versus build differences.
I think we will actually.
Yeah, it's more complicated.
I think that's an interesting conversation too. Right.
But if you are building, or for you the technology is an important part of your strategy, you end up at the mercy of another company. If you just buy, they could go out of business. They could decide to stop adding features. They could take the product in a whole different direction. I think that's fine if that's not your expertise. So if I were non-technical and I was opening up a candle website, I would go to, and I make candles, I'd go to Shopify. Like straight out, I'd open a Shopify store. I'd tell somebody to do that. Technology is not the thing that you're differentiating on. It's your quality. It's what you're doing. It's maybe your branding. And so you don't need to go, don't worry about the rest of that. But if what you're trying to do is something that does require technology, and that is really something that can be a full differentiator for your business, that is super important. If it's a 3D scanner for candle making, this is a terrible business model.
I'm loving this though.
Yeah, it's like a virtual reality candle making simulator.
It's a new kind of a podcast. We're going to ideate on bad business ideas.
But yeah, the best part about open source is like that, even it only becomes unsupported if you don't support it. Right?
If you're not contributing back yourself. Right?
Yeah, and that's a choose your own adventure game. So you can, if the thing works well enough, like let's say it's a, email template that you've built that's based off some open source work, A+. If you don't need anything new from it, just leave it. But if you want to add to it, it's something that you and other companies can work together. And once again, but it goes into what's your expertise. If your expertise is not as a business email templates, and I think every business needs those these days.
Correct.
Probably it wouldn't make sense for you to go try to manage that yourself. But yeah, I think it's really about what's your USP as a business, and what's the next 5 years, and how do you differentiate yourself in the market.
So one of the things that probably comes up, or is probably top of mind for our listeners, is the thought that open source catalog business, you're probably thinking e-commerce platform, but it sounds to me like you're solving problems that aren't necessarily the e-commerce platform. Tell me about some of those types of challenges.
Anytime we find something that we can use off-the-shelf software, like we dance and celebrate as a business, because there's a couple fundamental things about Rent the Runway that unfortunately break core assumptions and an awful lot of products. And number one, that is that each of our items and garments are individually tracked. So one red dress that was ordered at the same time, same size, has very different tracking, has a different history, has a different future, honestly, than the other item. And then further to that, our reservation system. So our event business, you're booking out in the future. So it ends up being closer to a hotel reservation system. Except way more complicated because, if you had very specific room types that were very low utilization. So, we might only have 5 of the red dress, and we need to make sure that weekend over weekend during our peak periods that those are out with the customer. And when she places an order with us, she expects to get that dress.
Right.
So there's a whole lot of logic and complexity in how we actually handle that to try to make sure that when we promise, especially our event customer, something that she gets it. With subscription, it's actually a little easier where we only allow people to order things that we actually physically have in hand. There's no future ordering with that, which we're very happy about because at least from a sort of accounting or inventory accounting perspective, we can just count them as much more like another company. But man, try to bring that to an ERP system and convince them that each item is totally different, and you end up and it's so funny, like every time we've tried to integrate, you end up hitting something, and you're like, oh, fundamentally this software we're trying to integrate with doesn't even understand our universe.
Right.
But there are places in our business, and once again, we celebrate them, where it's pretty similar. The way we buy stuff, our planning's a little unique, but when we're actually purchasing things from vendors, it's not all that fundamentally different than the way a large retailer would buy things. We're placing purchase orders and wanting to track their arrival, and there's all sorts of fun complexities in that whole universe. Our finance stuff's all fairly straightforward. And also once shipping, that's the other thing. So once it's out the door, that also we can utilize. But once it's in our stuff inside of our warehouse, we have our own WMS system to track things through our warehouse, because once again, they're based off individual units.
SKU, right? Yep. Like it's one to one.
Yeah, and actually every time we've used a third party there to try to use that, it's ended up kind of costing more in every way. Now that being said, I also understand, like, if I was an agricultural sales company, I would just buy an off-the-shelf WMS. It's going to do pretty much what you need, and especially if you don't have that tech background. But for us as a disruptive company, it's actually fairly easy for us to get great tech talent, and that's something that we want to invest in. Not to speak ill of, but I think if you're a fertilizer sales company, it's a little harder to get, when you're up against Facebook and Google for talent, or the fertilizer company. So buy that stuff and don't feel guilty about it.
Right. I think it's an interesting challenge in our space where I think most of the enterprise level e-commerce platforms that might be looked at with a company at the volume of yours they all have some history to them now, and they were developed at a time in the aughts in 2008, 2009, 2010, where there was a certain way of shopping online, and I believe that that's fundamentally changed as well. The expectation of the customer and how they find products and how they search for them and how they expect them to be laid out is changing dramatically.
Yeah, and what's interesting, our customers, 80% of our picks, that is, when they're selecting items, are done in our mobile app. And I was on a flight here, and the woman in front of me, I wasn't being that creepy, but her phone, I could see she was on our app. She was just browsing and hearting stuff, and like, our customers actually engage with our platform more similar to social media than, like, in sort of that every day they look for new things. They're always keeping an eye out. They're checking out things. It's kind of like it's an important part of the experience. They're generally not coming in with the same mindset of, okay, I need to get something, right? It's more, I'm going to come in and look and browse, and that's something that we've definitely found. And yeah, it's also funny, like, I think we used to, SEO is always an interesting one, because when it comes to the event business, certainly we want, if you're looking for wedding dress or bridesmaid dress, that you find us really high to the top or really close to the top. But individual products, nobody searches for maybe the designer, but the names of individual styles are not well known, which is actually very interesting for us, because nobody's going like, I think I always mentioned award winner gown. It's our most popular. Nobody knows that name except for us,
right?
Because we know about that dress. So yeah, it does shift stuff, and also for us, like that, there's no, you have your credit card on file, so we're not, I really do love, oh my gosh, when things have Apple Pay on them or Google Checkout, and I don't have to enter my information. Bless you, website.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Contactless for me, I feel like we're fast approaching having those things to be more ubiquitous.
I ask everywhere if I can use my Apple Watch to pay, or my card, or the tap on the card. Because that chip system, who needs that?
Right.
Who need that?
Right.
It takes forever.
And
it buzzes at me.
That's the kind of baggage that I think that most marketplaces have to carry around too. Most marketplaces are busy, like their customer is not being acquired to be a lifetime customer. Their customer is being acquired as just a one-time purchase. and so they have to cater to a non-repeat customer. You have what I would describe as a checkout. I would assume, because I'm not a customer, I would assume that the checkout really only happens once, payment, shipment, et cetera, and then it's preference management after that.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we still put it through our kind of cart system, even the ones that are for part of your subscription. Which, yeah, I mean, even for us in the back end, that has all sorts of,
interesting challenge.
Baggage and assumptions about how our system worked before its subscription. And then, definitely also we've run into the is a growing enterprise all of a sudden. Columbus, Ohio, which I hear is a lovely place.
Yeah.
But if they have a unique tax law about high formality stuff or different types of materials, you start getting to that, at this scale, problems that you don't have when you're smaller and nobody notices that your tax rate is simplistic. But yeah, outside of that stuff, yeah, it is pretty straightforward for us at the checkout. But I do think a real challenge for quote unquote traditional even e-tailers is, how do you build that relationship, right? Because you can look at ROI. I've got my SEO. I have people coming in, they make their purchase and then they leave. And I think it's a real open question, depending on your business. How do you build that relationship? How do you build it so that the customer thinks of you after the purchase, thinks back to that experience? Maybe for some companies that's just not important, but for me, at least in the brands that I spend the most with, that's very important.
When you're looking at when you're looking at the complexity and the scale, we wrote an article earlier this year about the new the unicorn designation. Congratulations, by the way, $1 billion valuation. And there's a lot of marketplace companies that are are positioning themselves in the marketplace, a lot of IPOs in that space. You're hitting sort of a critical mass. How do you grow an internal engineering culture? How do you grow an internal team to sort of adapt to that when you're solving challenges that nobody's actually really solved before because you're trailblazing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that is the most attractive. That's what makes it easier to get talent in the door. People want to work on things that haven't been done before. And, I think when it comes to hiring engineers or software developers, some people think or thought maybe early in their career that the real challenge was going to be around, can I write a faster algorithm? Can I shave half of a millisecond off of some bit of code that I wrote? And really what the career is all about is about sort of solving real problems and how people and systems all work together. And I think, honestly, I don't want to get the type of talent that is only into solving abstract miniature problems. I think the sort of talent that we really look to is they're excited that there's a physical aspect to the business. They're excited that what they're working on, it's not the algorithms that are complicated, it's how it all fits into the real world. And then, we have a 10-year-old microservices architecture. The challenge is just of operating at that scale with the, legacy code and trying to upgrade systems and working the challenge there is so high. And I think it's really important to us with our culture to make sure that sort of that understanding that complexity isn't value. And actually simplifying is the best thing we can do. So actually a lot of what we're doing right now in our internal teams as we're growing is simplifying. We're looking at, the first, let's say 8 years of the company, there was definitely product market fit when it came to the original business, but not at the level we're seeing, and not requiring the level of scaling that we're currently having to do as a business and a technology org. And so there's sort of this experimental phase where there's a lot of stuff maybe we should try that. Maybe we should try, I think for example, we had a thing called BlingBot. I know that would try to upsell you right at the end of checkout, right before you got stuff. And I think it would randomly give you an accessory for some low price, and we would just throw the computer randomly choose something. Anyhow, so that was an idea that I'm sure was rolled out 6 years ago or something like that. But actually, we ended up running into it while trying to go through some systems and simplify some of our operations. And came up that actually this thing that was a fun kind of, driving up our cart value, and or AOV.
Right.
Yeah. There you go. It's, what's so funny as a business, we used to talk all the time about AOV when I first started 2.5 years ago. That was like a really common thing. And now with subscription, that isn't even a number that
Right.
I know about anymore.
Now
I couldn't even remember
unlimited.
the phrase.
We just have to get people into unlimited because that's the lifetime value, right? Play.
Yeah, and the CSAT numbers and stuff, right? The satisfaction of our customers, how much they would recommend us to their friends, how they feel about interacting with our service, how happy they are with each rental they get. I mean, I think that's the stuff that really drives us, because we know that's what's going to drive long-term value as a business. And I say this, when it comes to long-term value, so I have never been at a company, and this is something that's so unique to us. Success in every one of the metrics that I'm personally responsible for in my teams means something that is both financially good for the company and good for the environment. That is not common, especially for retailers.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what kind of measures are you tracking that are those success measures?
If you look at like any operational thing, COGS is obviously a number. But for us, it's how many times can we rent an item? What is the condition of that item over time? How can we get the most number of wears, the most number of days out of it? How can we get the customer the right thing? So if we mail our customer 4 things, and what we selected for her, or she selected actually, sorry, but with our device, what she chose, she hates all of it. That was a waste for us. That cost us money in shipping.
Right.
She's immediately going to put it back in the bag and send it back to us, and that'll mean we have to pay shipping, we have to wash those things. That means their lifetime is going to get lower.
Pounds of carbon added to the atmosphere, right?
And that is both, every single dollar that we spend making our business function all goes into the environmental impact of that.
Yeah.
Because really, reuse, was it reuse?
Reduce, recycle, right.
Recycle. We are big on the reuse. And everything we do from, we have whole teams that are working with our designers that we partner with to construct things that last longer, that look and feel, we want them to be obviously super high quality. It's part of our brand. But making sure we use the right sort of fabrics and the right sort of stitching that'll actually last longer. Because traditionally luxury companies weren't thinking your $10,000 dress they wouldn't think you'd wear it 100 times. That wasn't even something that they're interested, or it wasn't something their customers asked for. But something that I found not surprising, but interesting, is that those same brands and designers, they're people who choose to go into that business because they love quality. Right? You get into the high-end stuff because that is important to you. So when they know they can continue to improve the quality and longevity of what they're doing, they're so into that. It's just information and a lens they never had, but they really, really get excited about making something just better. Even if they are selling it to a customer who only wears it once, it's something they can be more proud of, that was made with a higher quality and that'll last longer. So we share back and forth lots of that information, and that helps us. It helps the reuse of our items, because there's this statistic that out of polluting industries in the world, number 1 is oil and number 2 is fashion.
Right.
And so, we're really digging straight into outside of cars,
right?
Electric cars.
I was going to guess dry cleaning. This comes up a lot, especially in trade shows. They talk about they rep Rent the Runway's one of the largest dry cleaners in the world, or in America, or what actually is it in the world?
We have the largest dry cleaning facility in the world.
Wow.
And that was we kind of got that designation when our main warehouse in Secaucus was roughly half the size that it is now.
Wow.
So we've kind of doubled that, and then our new facility in Arlington is double the size of that facility. It's not built out yet, so it doesn't yet have the crown, but your normal dry cleaner, your retail dry cleaner will have 3 or 4 machines, and we have way, way, way more than that. I actually don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but let's say definitely more than 30.
Yeah.
Somewhere way above 30, which is just
I'm
a
curious,
volume.
as a company, and not to ideate on your behalf, but I'm curious as you grow and you grow your capability, and maybe even look at new geographies, if there's ancillary businesses there in the form of what AWS has become to Amazon, to be a provider of other types of services and technologies that you've developed yourself that have solved your problems that might solve other people's problems as well.
Yeah, there is a company called Castle that does that.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Okay.
They were formerly called Winnie B. and they kind of pivoted into being sort of the platform or service provider for other brands to do their own rentals. I think we very much we were always going to take a different path than that.
Build for your own purpose.
Yeah, well, I mean, we definitely think that access to more types of things and more brands all at once is something that makes sense. I think when you start getting into the micro rental, it'd be like if Uber was like Toyota's Uber, and then you want a Ford, you've got to go like sign up on a different thing.
Sure.
And it's sort of sure, the platform behind that could be the same, but what we want to save our customers time, number one, right? You want to look good, save money, and save time. So those things, that's what we're hyper focused on. And yeah, I think trying new brands is actually a lot of the value that our designers have is that they're not well known when they first come on the platform. We have a lot of brands who are now successful at the retail level, even who we're, I'm not going to get any names, but we're like on the brink of closing down when we placed our order, because we place orders that are sort of larger than a lot of the big department stores, and yeah.
But it's interesting that you function as a discovery platform.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So you have fulfilled a need in the marketplace of a small or upstart brand to be able to find their own product market fit and find their customer. Yeah. Which I think is really interesting. I heard something similar from Birchbox earlier today about finding these making customers, even with heritage brands, and you have these brands that have trouble getting in front of their customers regardless of how well known they are, and being able to try a product or to be able to experience the product without making the commitment to it as a customer seems to be a way to solve that challenge. You're providing the way to solve that challenge.
And I mean, it's more than, yes, and because we actually, every single time somebody rents from us, and this does drive our customers a little bit bonkers, but we think it's worth it, that every single time they return, when they go to the website or open their app, before you can place the next order, you have to say what you thought of the item, did it fit you, and give us feedback on it. You have to do that for every single thing. There's no Xing out, you have to do it, which is a little aggressive, but what that actually means is that we have an amount of data about who likes what and when and what's the overlap, and that feedback to the designers, who we really consider as partners. I think that's something very different from us than pretty much anybody else out there. But they want to know, like,
right.
If I'm at a large retailer today, I know what sales happened, and maybe somebody comes back to my website to write a review. But generally, I'm going to sell out of those things pretty quickly. They'll be done by the end of the season. Maybe I'll read them to try to figure out next year. But for us, it's kind of this real time and long, like how many times did you actually wear it? How did you feel about it when you wore it? And that, our designers find that helps them in their own retail sales too, because they start to know at a level that is much more detailed than you'd ever get in any other platform. And for us, that's once again, this is another one where it falls in the category of it's good for the financials, it's good for the environment, and it's good for the designers. It really does, it gets me so excited because being able to sort of power a virtuous cycle there is really, really interesting. And I feel very lucky that we get to do that.
Speaking of the virtuous cycle, I caught Maureen Sullivan, who's your COO, I believe, right? And she was speaking, she opened Commerce Next a few weeks ago, and she said, she alluded to using that feedback mechanism to provide data back to designers to expand category, and in particular around expanding into extended sizing, which that is an incredibly important issue to help you to help Rent the Runway grow, but also for people to have more access into that more accessible fashion. I felt like that was a really interesting use of data on your part, and I think it's just the way that you partner with brands. It's really differential.
Yeah, extended sizing is definitely a challenge. and we have a lot of staff and people in the fashion team are in the larger sizes, and honestly, even the super smaller sizes have their own.
Yeah.
Their own. The petites have their own challenges. And what's also interesting is you have to kind of construct things differently. So yeah, it's this sort of getting those lessons on what it takes to sort of have the same look and make people feel awesome about themselves and how they feel and how they look at all sizes. So yeah, we now go up to size 22 US, and that is definitely a category that we're actively always getting into. I think one of the challenges there, and it was a little off script, but it's fine. It's actually one of the challenges at the larger sizes is people don't feel as confident to try, and like actually trying to market in a way to say like, give it a go, because so many people feel burnt by other brands or feel like they've been sidelined by the fashion industry. And I think for us, our heart is very much that we want to make all women feel amazing. That is, such a cool thing. Our customers are so obsessed. Once again, they either don't know who we are or totally obsessed.
Totally obsessed. And I think that's evidenced by the amount of fanaticism that you see even at a conference like this, where the room is packed to the gills when you spoke, standing room only all the way through the back. And it's because I think they just want to hear more about the story of Rent the Runway. It truly is a story brand. So we usually close the show. I appreciate all your time, by the way.
No problem.
We usually close the show asking our guests to predict the future. If you had to hazard a guess on the next 3 to 5 years, not just for Rent the Runway, but where do you think retail technology is going, or what consumer expectations are going? And we can cut this together and make it sound like you didn't consider it for a very long time. But I'm just curious what your outlook is and what you think is in the future from a retail perspective.
I believe that retailers, especially traditional ones, should expect their customers to engage more with them. So if I go into a traditional retailer today, they might have an app, and that is very much an e-commerce thing, or maybe they'll say you can order things from the store. I want things like instant checkout. I want things that, like, I'm willing to give you information about me, and I want you to send me to the exact right stuff in the store at the right time. I think it's strange how much traditional retailers are holding back from getting the level of information we have. Like, I think you're either going to have to just start asking. Now you have to provide value, right? You need to do that part of the story where I install your app, I have Apple Pay set up, and I can check out, and somebody comes over to help me, and they know who I am already, they know my picture, and then I'm in and out, and I don't have to necessarily go wait in line or wait for a bag or do something like that. And so you have to build those secondary experiences. I think what I see a lot today is install our app and get 10% off.
Right.
You're like
incentivizing on discount. Right.
Yeah, which is like, it's a great way to, like, in your marketing meeting, everybody can applaud that you had a 20% growth in installs. But I personally want to be able to engage with the physical stores that I do go into, and I just want my experience to be seamless. And I'm willing to trade some information about me and do some pre-setup work. And I really do think that, like, customers, we're used to this now. On the internet, it's like continuous Google, yes, sign in with Facebook. They know like 20 things about me. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's relative. You can find that anywhere on the internet. And like, I think it's weird that we sort of have this more traditional thing where that would be, in retail stores where they, like, can we get your phone number?
Right.
Why do the awkward quote? Why do you need my phone? Are you gonna call me?
It's almost disrespectful.
I'm like, no.
Right.
Or what's your zip code? I'm like, why? Why do you care? But like, that's such a different thing, because I'm like, you want this for marketing and you want to track me
for sure.
But if you're saying, can you give me your Facebook profile and we will know who you are. We'll even set up a whole corner that already has things we think you'll like, ready for you to try on in a fitting room. Pre-scheduling a thing where if I could walk into like a Bloomingdale's and they would have like things in a room that they think I would like, and then there was a person there who could kind of help me, like, but faster, like a much simpler thing. I would love that. Like, please know about me. But you have to trade that experience. You have to respect time. You have to respect my budget. Please don't put a $2,000 jacket in there. I'm not buying it.
Right, you're not going to buy it, right.
$300 jacket?
Maybe.
We'll see. But like, respect my time, respect my experience. And I think people are willing to trade some level of quote unquote privacy. We don't need to walk in and be totally anonymous anymore.
Right.
I
They
think we're
expect.
past
I would
that.
expect that customers don't expect to be totally anonymous unless, if the like you said, the experience is heightened as a result of it, they appreciate it. That
Yes.
customers would appreciate it. Right.
Versus, I feel like, because there's this social thing about having semi anonymity in stores, you end up doing gross stuff like using face tracking, those heat sensors about who's
Right.
moving through the building and do
Right.
we recognize them, or like cell phone sniffing
Yeah.
technologies. And I'm like, this is gross. Like, let me opt into these things. I will happily let you know what I'm looking at, but this is a trade.
Right.
So I think they're actually doing things that are alienating to customers versus let me choose. If I'm willing to give you that information, you meet me halfway, and then I will give you more money.
This is it's been really, really awesome. I really appreciate all your time. Thank you for making time for us here at eTail. And we want you to make more time for us, so subscribe everywhere podcasts are found. Thank you for listening and for watching Future Commerce, and thanks to Hampton for all of his time. Where can people find you online?
At Catlin everywhere on the internet.